So today we are going to discuss copy, shallow copy and deep copy. So there is a subtle difference between these. So first of all, we are going to see what is copy. So copy is like if I have two lists L1 and L2, right? And I'm going to consider the list like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And I'm writing L2 equals L1. Okay, so what is the memory representation? Watch it very carefully. So L1 is there, which is a pointer, and this points to an object, and this object is a list object consisting of 3 pointers, and each of these pointers in return points to other objects. So the first pointer is again a pointer to a list, to another list object, and that points to 1 and 2 respectively. Then the second one, again it is another list object which points to 3 and 4. And then we have 5 and one more object, that is 6. Right? So you can see here, this is a list object. So this is the first level and this is the second level, and so on. You have third, fourth, fifth levels and so on, as many levels of nesting as you want. Now when I am executing this statement here, L2 equals L1, it actually creates another reference to the same L1 object. Okay, so the same reference is created. If you make any changes to L1, it will be reflected in L2, and if you make any changes in L2, it will be reflected in L1. So let us confirm that by running a code. Okay, so I am going to write L1 equals so this is L1 and I write L2 equals L1. Okay, so L1 is this, L2 is this, the content are the same. If I write over here L1 dot append, I have written. Okay, so I am appending one element. So you can see L1, it is already being displayed. L2, it is being displayed there also, right? If I try to add any element in any of the sublists, now over here L1 is what? You already know that this is L1, right? So if I just give indices to each of the elements, so this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So I want to add another element to this sublist. So how will I do that? I will be writing statement like L1 and 0th element, because I'm trying to append any element to the first sublist. So L1 0 dot append and any value whatever I want to append to it, right? So I'm going to add this statement over here, L1 0 dot append, and what is the element? Any element I can take over here. I'm taking 8. Now I type L1 here, I type L2 here. So you can see that whatever changes I'm making to L1, they are reflected in L2. So this is simple copy. Okay, where all you need to do is, all what Python is doing is, it is just creating two identifiers, and it is, and both these identifiers are referencing the same object. Got it? So this is the first one, that is copy. Now we will see the second one, that is shallow copy. Now what is shallow copy? In shallow copy, first of all, you need to write statements like this. L1 is already there, right? Suppose I want to create another copy, L3, a shallow copy, which will be a shallow copy of L1. So it will be L3 equals L1 dot copy. A copy function is called, and it is called by L1, and what it will do is, it will create a shallow copy of L1 and assign them to L3. Now watch very carefully what exactly is happening in the memory. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to copy the elements of L1. to just copy the elements. So this is L1. This is L1. So I'm going to just draw it. L1 is actually referencing an object in memory which consists of 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 5 pointers. Got it? First one will have 3 pointers. Second one will be pointing to 3 and 4. Then others 5, 6 and 7. Okay, so this is L1, the original L1. Next, we are going to have the shallow copy. Now, I created a shallow copy L3 of L1. So, how will it be? In this case, watch very carefully, students. One copy of only the first level list is created. Means this is the first level list. So a copy of this first level list will be created, but henceforth all the references will be to the same nested lists. Like you can see over here. Can you see this? This is shallow copy, where only the copy of first level list is created. If I read this, shallow copy only creates a duplicate of the main object, but does nothing about the inner object references. So the main object is this. This is the main object. So shallow copy only creates a copy of the main object, but after that, whatever references are there, they all are done to the same object. So you can see that this first pointer is pointing to this same object, the same list object, which is pointed by the main object of L1, right? So now how this is going to work? Watch very carefully. If I write here L1 dot append, I write L1 dot append 9. So this is going to add 9 to the main list, right? So I'm going to do that over here and just watch it. L3 equals L1 dot copy. So I created a shallow copy, right? So this is L1 and this is L3. You can see here. Now I'm typing L1 dot append. L1 dot append 9. So I type L1. So you can see that 9 has been appended to L1. Let us check whether it has affected L3 or not. Okay, just wait. It has not affected L3. Why? Because the reason over here is the main object, a copy of the main object is created, right? So when you are writing L1 dot append 9, so in this main object of L1, another pointer is created which is pointing to 9. But because the copy of main object is already L3 it contains the copy of this main object. So changes are not reflected over here क्योंकि change तो हमने इस object में किया है. इस object में कुछ भी change नहीं हुआ है. So that is why you can see that L3 doesn't show 9. But now just think about the situation where I try to add an element to the 0th list, that is the first sublist of L1. So first sublist of L1 will be referenced by L10 dot append, and let me add 11 here. Okay, so what will I get over here? So L10 dot append and I'm typing 11 here, right? Now L1 is this. You can see 11 has been added over here. What about L3? You can see that L1 is displayed over here. Now, how is it possible? So look here very carefully. What I did was, because I had added an element to the first sublist of L1. That means this sublist of L1 will have another pointer. Now it is a bit difficult to see here, so I'm going to write it a bit this side. Let me change the color. So I'm using a yellow color over here. Please watch it carefully. Just a minute. Microsoft Whiteboard is hanging. So let's give it a moment, okay? So you can see here 11 is added. I hope you all can see this part, right? That is where another reference is created within this sublist and 11 is added. Okay. Now what you can see over here is already this main object, the first pointer, this pointer is pointing to this object. Okay. And hence in now this object contains how many elements? 4 elements, 1, 2, 8 and 11. As I have already told you that copy is only created of the main object, not of the inner object references. So that is why now that you have made changes in this inner object, you are able to see the changes in both. तो अब यहाँ पे आपको दोनों में changes दिखेगा. It was added here. So if you add anything, now if you add anything, a sublist to L1, like I'm typing here L1 0 dot append, and I'm trying to add a sublist over here. 12 comma 13. Okay, so I have added a sublist to L1. So now L1 contains another sublist. Now you press L3, you will see that sublist has also been added. So only thing is, if I try to add anything in the main object, like L1 dot append 14 I'm doing, and I'm trying to check L3. So in L3 you won't see any 14, but over here you can see these two extra elements because they are added to the main object. अगर मेन ऑब्जेक्ट में आप कुछ ऐड करते हो तो वो दिखाई नहीं देगा, लेकिन अगर आप अंदर के सबलिस्ट्स में कुछ ऐड करोगे तो वो डेफिनेटली रिफ्लेक्ट होगा इन द कॉपी ऑब्जेक्ट. ओके, सो दिस इज शैलो कॉपी, right? So you have to be very careful when you are studying shallow copy, and shallow copy, for that we use the copy function. The last one is deep copy. Now for deep copy we need to write these statements: import copy, just a second, okay. Import copy, and like I want to create L4 as the deep copy, so I'll write L4 equals copy dot deep copy. Copy is a module and deep copy is a function in this module, L1. So here L4 will become a deep copy of L1, which will mean that even the copy of main object will be created. So suppose now let me just bring L1 over here. This is L1. Okay, so this is L1. Now I'm going to just create a deep copy of L1 here. So firstly, I'm going to specify L1 in the form of the memory representation. And how many elements do we have? We have, this is the 0th element, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now within this also you have another element. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. This is 0, this is 1. Okay. Now L1 is going to point to a main list object. 1, 2, 3, 4. It will have a total of 7 pointers. So 7 pointers we have. Now within this we have 5 pointers. Okay, and with this is 1, 2, 8, 11, and then again another list object consisting of 2 elements, right? Then next one is this one, 3 and 4. Then this one is 5, this one is 6, this is 7, 9, and 14. Okay, so this is your main object. Now you have created L4, right? So now L4 will be what? It will create exact copies of all these. So if I just copy this part over here, I am not going to waste time in writing the entire thing. I'm going to copy everything of L1. This is my L1. इसी की एक पूरी copy आप बना लोगे. And if you paste that, like I'm pasting it over here. Okay. So यहाँ पे मैंने इसको paste कर दिया and this becomes L4. That means an exact copy, exact duplicate copy or replica of L1. Now whatever changes you make in L4 will not be reflected in L1, and whatever changes you make in L1 will not be reflected in L4. चाहे आप inner lists में change करो, चाहे outer lists में change करो. So I'm going to show this to you. I'm going to import copy. Okay, and now I'm going to create L4 equals copy dot deep copy L1, right? And now let us type, this is L1, this is L4. I add something to L1, say 15 I'm adding, and I'm typing L1. You can see 15 is added. L4, 15 is not added. Okay, and if I am typing L1 0 dot append 16. So L1 is, you can see 16 is added to the first sublist, and if you type L4, you can see 16 is not added. So whether you add it to the main object or any of the sublists, nothing will be reflected because 2 exact copies are created. Understood that? Same happens with dictionary also. So let us check that out. So deep copy, what is deep copy? It will recursively copy the objects. So you'll get a true duplicate that you can modify to your heart's extent without having to worry about modifying original copy. Okay, so that is your deep copy. Now coming to dictionary. So we are going to see an example over here for dictionary object also. Just check out this example here. I'm going to increase the font size. You have a dictionary object A, right? And it has one key element, that is 1, right? Okay, just a second. First, I'll explain it like this. So this is the dictionary object with 1 as the key and a list object as its value. So I write B equals A. So B equals A means only 2 different references are made to the same object. This is the dictionary object, and inside it the value is L, which is another list. So you can see A and B both are pointing to the same object, right? Next, B equals A dot copy. Now I'm using shallow copying method over here. So B equals A dot copy. So a copy of the main object is created. This is the main dictionary object. This is the main dictionary object. A copy of that is created, and then inside it you have two different references to the same value object. A value is a list object, so reference is made to that, right? So if you make changes in the main dictionary, it will not be reflected here. But if you make changes in the inner sublist, that is in the value of it, it will be reflected. And this is deep copy, that is exact replicas or true duplicates are created. Okay, so let us understand this by another example using a dictionary object this time. Okay, so D1 equals, and I'm creating a dictionary over here of one. We know that dictionary keys can always be immutable values. Okay, and inside this I'm adding a list object. You can see a list object is created over here. Okay, 2 I'm adding A, B, C. 3 I'm adding anything, say 45, right? So this is my D1. Now if I write D2 equals D1, whatever changes I make in D1 will be reflected in D2. Like if I'm writing D1, 2 equals B, C, D, right? So D1 you can see BCD for key 2, and D2 you can still see BCD for key 2, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use shallow copy. So D3 equals D1 dot copy. Okay, so now this is D1 and this is D2 and this is D3. Okay. Now I'm going to add something to D1, and I'm going to add another element here. 4 equals anything, right? So D1 में तो change हो गया. Let's see what happens in D2. D2 में भी reflect हो रहा है, but then in D3 it is not being reflected. Why? Because main object की अलग से copy बनती है. Okay, और उसमें कुछ भी आप change करोगे, ओरिजिनल में चेंज करोगे तो डुप्लीकेट में दिखाई नहीं देगा. बट इफ आई एम राइटिंग हियर D1 डॉट D1 1 dot append 4. D1 1 means the key 1. Okay, and what is the key? When I'm referencing D1, it means I'm referencing the value of key 1. Value is 1 2 3, which is a list, and to that I am appending 4. So if I type D1 here, you can see 4 is added. Type D2, 4 is added. Okay, type D3, 4 is added. Why? Because this object is what? This object is the original object. The main object, of course a copy is created of the main object, but the pointer for the value of the first key over here, it points to the same sublist. Okay, to the same object, right? So let me explain that over here. Fine. Now look here very carefully. Okay, so I have D1, right? And what is D1? It consists of one sublist for the first key, 1 comma 2 comma 3, right? Then for 2 I have something like A, B, C, which is a string object. For 3 I have something like 1 2 3, which is again a string object. I'm taking another example over here, right? So now when I'm actually creating this object, I'm creating a shallow copy of D1 using this statement. D2 equals D1 dot copy. So in this case, what is created? A shallow copy is created. So when a shallow copy is created, what exactly is happening in the memory? Look here. D1 is this. D1 points to a dictionary object, and which is like this. So this is the key one. Okay, and this key one points to another list object, which is a pointer to this list object here. Okay, so this is your D1. The main object is this. This is your main object. Now I created a shallow copy. So when I've created a shallow copy, what is happening here is another copy, exact replica of D1 is created, which is something like this. One, okay, and another list object, which is pointing to the same object, okay. Two, which is again pointing to this same object. Three, which is again pointing to this same object, right? So this is what is happening. So if you add anything to the inner list, it will be reflected in both D1 and D2. But if you add something to the main object here, like 4 and 1, 2, 3, that will not be reflected over here in the D2 object. So this is shallow copy, and we have a deep copy also, where it creates exact duplicates of each. It will create a duplicate of this inner list also, and these also. Okay, that is these objects also. हर चीज का एक अलग से duplicate वो बना देगा. Got it? So if you create, like if you use deep copy, so how do we use deep copy for dictionaries? It's the same. If I create D3 as the deep copy, it will be copy dot deep copy D1. So here in this case, now what are we going to have? I'm just going to remove this. Okay, and so now this object is already created, right? So it will be something like this. M की अलग से copy बन जाएगी, which will be like this. Of course, memory references to these literals will be the same. Only thing, a separate copy of the inner object will be created. Okay. So these will also be pointing, but now say you make a change over here, that is D1 2 equals, and you try to write A, B, C, D. So because ABC is what? It is a string object, and we know that string objects are what? They are immutable objects. So it will stop this 2, this key 2 within D1 object will stop referencing to ABC, and it will refer to another object, that is ABCD. Got it? So now D2 is already pointing to this object, and this is already pointing to this object. Got it? So no change will be reflected there. So if I just have to experiment with this, we can see it over here. Right. I'm going to restart the shell because too many things we have created. Let us try to create a deep copy for D1. So deep copy 1, 2, 3, okay, and 2 points to ABC, and 3 points to say 45. Okay, so this is what I have created. This is D1, and I'm creating a deep copy of it. So import copy, and D2 equals copy dot deep copy D1. Right? So now D1 is this and D2 is this. Now I'm adding D1 dot D1 4. I'm adding a key 4 over here equals something. So when I check D1, you can see the key 4 is added, key value pair is added. When you check D2, that key value pair is not added. Now I try to add something to the list object of key 1. dot append, and I'm adding a list object 4 here. So D1 is this, इसमें 4 add हो गया है, but when you check D2, nothing is added, not even in the inner lists. But if I use a shallow copy, like if D3 is a shallow copy of D1, okay. This was what we were talking about. This is D3, okay. This is D1 and this is D3, and D3 is a shallow copy of D1. So now I am trying to add something, another key value pair to D3. So I'm going to type here something like maybe another tuple object. And now I'm going to check D1. So you can see key 5 is not added, but to D3, key 5 is added, and this tuple object is also added. Okay, now tuple object is what? It is an immutable object. So if you try, you first of all, individual item appending or assignment is not allowed in tuple. So when you add any element to tuple, it will be a reassignment. So the previous association will be broken. अगर आप जैसे एक और एलिमेंट ऐड करना चाहते हो 6 7 8 9, तो it will be D3 5. Okay, like I want to add another element, so it will be D3 within square brackets 5 equals another assignment, that is 6.78, 9, something like this you have to do. That is whatever is there, you have to add another element to it. Got it? It will be like that, and the previous association will be broken. So you can see D1 में कुछ भी change नहीं हुआ है, but in D3 element has been added. Okay, but now if I try to add something to the inner list object over here, because list object is mutable. Normally deep copy, shallow copy, these take place, these are relevant only in terms of mutable data types. They have no effect on immutable data types. Okay, I'm writing D1 1 dot append 5. Okay, and I'm just typing D1, so you can see 5 is added. I'm typing D3, you can see 5 is reflected here, because this is the inner object, and inner object duplicate is not created. Duplicate is created only of the main object in terms of shallow copy. Okay, so it is something like this. If I have D1 here, okay, so D1 is the main object, and I already demonstrated this over here. Okay, so यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? This was your deep copy, and if it is a shallow copy, then in this case, it will be simply like this. This object, this list object, wait a second, Agni. This list object will point to this object only. So you can see both list objects, they are pointing to the main, to the actual sublist object. Yes, Agni, ask me.
Ma'am, what if we create a deep copy of D2, which is already a shallow copy of D1?
You want to create a deep copy of D2. So वो copy किसमें करोगे? D2 is already there. Okay, you will have to create a deep copy now into some other object like D4 equals copy dot deep copy D2. So in this case, whatever is not, this is D2. So D4 will be another exact replica of this. D2 के साथ उसका कोई connection नहीं रहेगा. It will just be a copy of it. So whatever changes then you make to D4 will not be reflected in D2. And same with D2 also. If you make any changes in D2, it will not be reflected in D4. Because deep copy is the true copy. हर चीज की copy बन जाती है. There is nothing in common between them. Shallow copy is what? Copy किसकी बनती है? सिर्फ first main जो आपका object होता है उसकी copy बनती है. But henceforth whatever copy, this is a bit tricky concept. Okay, I took a few days to get this totally in my mind. So आप लोगों को थोड़ा सा ये practice भी करना पड़ेगा और पढ़ना भी पड़ेगा. Okay, what is exactly shallow copy and deep copy? So one type of copy is a simple copy, which is just referencing the same object, right? Means two objects will be referencing to the same, two identifiers will be referencing the same object. ये होता है. Second is shallow copy, where this thing is gone and a copy, the exact copy of only the main object is created, but inner references are the same. You can see this L is also pointing to this list object, M is also pointing to this list object. Okay, in case of mutable data types like lists, this has no effect on immutable data types like strings, integers or float. Okay, उसमें कोई changes नहीं होंगे. But then you have deep copy. Deep copy means now ये जो inner object है इसका भी अलग से copy बन जाएगा. This will also now it won't be pointing to this object, rather another exact copy of this will be created, which will be pointing to these literals in the memory. Understood? This is deep copy.